Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFLW Fantasy Fanatics Round 2 review. It is Monday, the 9th of September, post second round of the AFLW Fantasy season, and it was a big weekend of footy. Not only did we have the AFLW Fantasy points record broken, we also had the disposal record broken. We had 3 scores over 160. It was just a great weekend of footy to be a part of. But we'll discuss that as well. We'll discuss all of the games and talk about double game weeks coming up as well. And sort of some trade in and out targets as well as Jaden's got the most trade in out players, so we'll get into them. But I'm your host, Bails, and you can find me at Bails DT across all the socials. And joining me is my co-host and fellow AFLW fan is Jaden Posky. Jaden, mate, how are you? Enjoy the weekend of footy?
Yeah, hey Bails. It was really good and quite fun to own some of those 160s and give the captain to them. So, yeah, nice weekend, and I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed seeing what AFLW Fantasy, how fun it can be when you own these massive scores, because the range of scoring is wider. So it's really fun.
Yeah. Did you have the trifecta of the 3 160s, or did you have 2 of the 3?
Just 2 for me, no Anderson, so I had Marinoff and Rowbottom. I think a lot of people were in that similar scenario. And yeah, it was good. Marinoff, the captain. I was a little bit worried halfway through the round. I was thinking, this is just so set up for Marinoff to come out and score 80 or 90, and people with Rowbottom and able to take that vice captaincy. I was a bit worried, but I think Marinoff had that by within 20 minutes. So it was quite relaxing after that. It was a fun weekend to own them.
Yeah. Well, you got me worried about that actually when you were saying set off for a Marinov 80. I was like, oh no, I really don't. This could be my season cooked if that happens. But no, it was a big week for Marinoff, Rowbottom, and Ali Anderson as well. So we do have the MVP vote actually on my Instagram account at Bails DT. So if you want to go and vote for that, make sure you do that. There's 4 nominees. I think I know who's probably going to get the votes, but I thought I'd shout out, especially because Ali Anderson broke the records disposal. Obviously, Rowbottom went and scored a triple-double. Don't know how many of those have been done in AFLW fantasy history. Jaden, you might be able to tell us about that. But then also Jazz Gunn had a massive game as well in that draw. So it was a very interesting weekend of footy there. So, but yeah, we'll go into around the ground and see how we scored in round 2. So, Jaden, mate, how did you score in round 2? And what was your weekly rank and overall rank?
I scored 14-14, and my overall rank slid slightly from 600 to 657. Not sure on the round rank. Maybe it's here if I click here. 1537. It was all right. I think the trades that I did weren't the best, but I don't know if I would do things differently. So I'm not that annoyed. But yeah, overall, not bad. Nothing went horribly wrong. So, how about you?
Yeah, I was very similar. So I scored the 1422. So it was a weekly rank of 1301. Overall rank slipped 21 spots to 502, so just outside top 500 again. Considering I didn't have like an Ali Anderson, I had like a Mon Conti at M3, for example. I think that was probably the difference between my own team and probably the ones that really rose up the ranks. If you maybe if it was an Ali Anderson, even if it was just like a Britt Benici or someone like that went 100 plus, then that's probably the difference between a rise in rank for the week. But yeah, not too bad. Obviously, my 2 trade-ins in Jess Hosking and Courtney Hodder only combined for what is it, a 43 and a 36, so 79 points. So that's not what you want. And I only used the 2 trades this week, which is interesting. I don't think that's been done ever by me in any fantasy platform where I've had like trades to use them or lose them. So I haven't used a trade, but it is what it is. So, but +3 and -3, Jaden, who are you going to give that to this week?
I'll give the +3. I mean, yeah, it's got to be Noffy, but I did just look up. Rowbottom is the first player to ever have 10 marks and 10 tackles in a game.
Yeah, there you go.
So there you go. And the previous best was Marinoff, who had 8 marks and 10 tackles in a game in 2022 when the quarters were shorter. So Rowbottom officially the first to get 10 and 10.
Yeah. Wow, that's massive. -3.
Difficult. I feel like a lot of people will be disappointed with Hosking. which is fair. But yeah, it just felt like a bit of a bait pick, and I was I'm a bit sad that I got her, but yeah, everyone did it, so I guess it kind of minimises the damage a bit. She still made money, so that's the goal, and I think she was on a lot less earlier in the game, so she kind of saved it a bit, made money. So yeah, might consider getting off it now.
Yeah, yes. That'd be very interesting because she does have the dogs and double game week, so she'll be definitely something we chat about in the trade in and out section. My +3, I've got to give it to Marinoff. I'm a Crows fan. Marinoff's my favourite AFLW player, and she has been ever since I started watching AFLW. So yeah, I just have to give it to her. But there is a few good scores, and I will touch on them when we go through the games quickly as well. That some good scores for some rookies and some other preems that did the job and got it done. So we'll go through how Mitch went as well. So I'll just get up his score and rank here by doing this. So Mitch, unfortunately, as he said in the group chat that us three are in regards to like our pods and stuff, he said, just pour one out for me and mark time of death of my fantasy season at 5:05 p.m. Sunday, the 8th of September. Obviously, that would have been after the first quarter of Marinoff's game. Yeah, he was not happy about not owning her. But even still, he still had, no, that's round 3 matchup. Bloody hell, why is it doing that? No, and that's stuffed up. So this is what happens when the bloody... far out. I just want to get Mitch's score up. Fixture week 2. Thank you. So Mitch scored a 1,300. Obviously, just the not having Marinoff was the big reason that he struggled this week there. So his rank shot outside of the 4,200 mark. He actually posted a screenshot on Twitter of him being ranked 44th before the Marinoff game. He had Rowbottom captain. He was happy, and then that just it didn't turn out. It turned out the worst possible way it could have. But yeah, his +3, no surprises. +3 goes to Charlie Rowbottom. -3 goes to Ebony Marinoff as a non-owner. So so unfortunately, Mitch, not a great week for you there, but hopefully you can bounce back this week. In terms of our open league, we now have 19 coaches in the top 100, which is great. So nearly a fifth of the people in our league are in the top 100. We do have the 3rd overall ranked coach, which is Peter F. So he had a very good week last week as well, scoring 1531, which is massive. 39 round rank for the week. Had some massive scores. He had the trifecta of Marinoff, Rowbottom, and Anderson. Obviously, Marinoff captain. He also had a Riddell in the midfield and Ash McCarthy, which is great. His forward line, a few lower scores there, but it was made up well and truly by the midfield, and also Emma Carney for her ton. So shout out to Robert for that. And also just a bit of a sneaky watch on a former AFL men's fantasy winner, Matt Mottram, currently ranked quite highly. He's 13th in our open league with 2,759 points. So that, in terms of rankings, puts him at an overall rank of 53. So, yeah, shout out to Matty Mottram, obviously very, very good coach and having a good start to the year. In terms of the AFLW Fantasy Content Creators Cup there, just a free version this year. Obviously, if you guys heard it from the men's season, there's money on the line for charity, but this time it's just a free one. But in terms of the results from week 2, so I got over the top of Jackson from Sliding Doors, 1422 to 1401. So I'm 2-0 to start this, which I'm very happy about. JS, the other half of Sliding Doors, was able to beat Mel there from free kick, 1401 to 1366. Jaiden, you got the job done over Eloise, so that you are 2-0 as well, 1414 to 1369 for Eloise there. Liam, who was the top scoring coach, the second top scoring coach behind another one of his fellow free kick panelists there. But Liam scored the 1438, beat Mitch there with a 1300, so massive win there for Liam. And then Jono, who was the top scoring coach this week with a 1444, was able to beat Will, the other member of free kick there with a 1348. So some interesting results there. There is currently only 2 coaches that have won every game. And that is your 2 coaches on this panel here, myself and Jane, which is fantastic. Then you got JS's 1 win and a draw, so he's undefeated as well. Then you've got pretty much everyone else is 1-1, and you've got a couple that haven't quite won a game yet, but we'll just see if that. I'm sure they'll be able to get a win over the next few weeks. But let's quickly whip through the games here and just go through some notable scores There won't touch on him because we'll touch on them when it comes to the most trading out players and when we discuss all the trade talk. So in round 2, so first game, obviously Bulldogs and Port Adelaide. Port winning by 40 points, 46-6. Ellie Blackburn was the only player that tonned in this game with 110. A very good game for her, considering that she copped a massive hit from Ebony O'Day, which is a bit of a dirty hit there, sort of after she got rid of the ball. But she got up. I thought she wasn't going to, and top scored. And considering she got tagged by Maria Maloney for the game, very happy with that. Izzy Pritchard as well, 96. Very good score from her to bounce back from a lower score there from last week there. And Piper Window was the other one that was really good with 69 there as well. So she'll make a good amount of cash. A couple of lower scores though. Wenland only scored the 41 there. Sinead Goody was the disappointing one with a 34 as well. So, not too great. And then, unfortunately, Kirsty Lee, Weston Turner with the 19 and Annalie McKee only the 10. So the conditions not suiting those girls in there. Moving to Saturday. So, obviously, Melbourne and Brisbane. So, Brisbane getting the job done by 18 points, 33-15. Ali Anderson, 161, was absolutely massive there. 43 disposals is now the AFLW record for disposals in a game. She had 6 marks, 7 tackles, so just a massive game from her. And she's got a double game week coming up as well. So that is something to note if you're looking at targeting her, but she is expensive now. Kate Hoare as well continued her sort of good form. She did get a lot of close attention from Bree Kona, but still had 10 disposals, 10 tackles, and a gold for an 83-point game. So the 10 tackles really helping her there. And Sinead Goldrick as well with the 74 was also very good. Got going late. She had a quiet first half, but second half she really got going. Which is good to see. Her last quarter as well was the standout there with 39 points. So, yeah, very good by Goldrick to keep the good scores ticking over there. Courtney Holder, unfortunately, was a little bit disappointed with the 43. Had a good role. Just she'd tackle people. They'd get rid of it, go to a teammate. The ball bounced the wrong way. Just a bit of an unfortunate game, but I'm sure that she's got a good game coming up. She's got 3 good matchups as well. Collingwood, and then she's got a good double game week pairing there. So look for her to have another good game. And then, unfortunately, Kate Lutkins again. Didn't have a disposal in this game. Only 2 tackles, a free against, and only 5 points. So if you traded her, which I know a lot of people did, then great. But if you didn't, firstly, you're looking at that thing and it's disgusting. But yeah, she's a definite must trade. West Coast and Essendon, with Essendon winning by 16 points there. Maddie Gay was the top scoring player in this game with a 96. She could be an interesting player to be looking at. She seems to have this role and playing really well there. Maddie Prasparkas got the job done as well with a 90. Arguably could have been a 96 or more if that goal was counted. I've never seen that before, where a goal was given and then quarter time break it was not given. So very interesting there. But a 90 was a solid score from her. And then Charlie Thomas just getting the job done there with a 67 as always. Ella Roberts with a 55 is a bit disappointing, but she's cheap. She does have the Dogs this week. She's got a double coming up, so we'll talk about her in trading targets, I'm sure. And then in terms of some lower scores, unfortunately, Jess Hosking was the one with the 36, was disappointing. 6 tackles is great, but only 4 touches is not going to get it done. So she was the disappointing one from that game there. Collingwood and Hawthorn. Hawthorn getting a job done by 47 points, 73-26 was big. Britt Benici, 120, massive score there. She could be another take with a double game week coming up. Tia Lucas-Rod as well, 108, playing this defensive role, was also very good. And Sabrina Frederick with a 92 as well was good there. Once again, could be the number 1 scoring ruck this year as she keeps going. And also Lucy Wales got an 83, which was very impressive from her as well. Some of the lower scores. So Casey Scherf only got the 51, but she was injured. Don't know the extent of that. I know it was a knee injury, so hopefully she's okay, but I'm not sure the extent. I'm sure we'll find out about that in a couple of days' time. Or even tomorrow. And there wasn't really any major low scores in this game from what I can see, so which is good to see. Move to the Sunday games. Elise Parker in the game, Giants going down to Richmond by 11 points, 38-27. But Elise Parker, the only player over 90 with a 124, 27 touches and 10 tackles, was a massive day for her. And then Zali Goldsworthy was the only other player that went over 80 with an 87 there. Mon Conti did a bit unders. She got a tag by Claire Ransom, which was interesting. Held her to a 76, so I'll probably go into a bit more discussion with her later. Elise O'Dowd, though, was very, very good. Another discussion we'll touch on with a 76. We could be trading her, trading our ruck to a red dot, putting her on field because she's putting up some really good scores there, and we could easily be fielding her. Katie Brennan, bit unders with a 51. Izzy Huntington got the job done with a 51 as well. And Michaela Pounger got a 42. Got going late in the game as well to get that score. But it was still a solid enough score for a forward rookie. Gold Coast and Carlton. So Carlton get the job done by 1 point, first ever triple-double, as Jaiden said as well, for Charlie Rowbottom. 163, 35 touches, 10 marks, 10 tackles for Charlie Rowbottom. Massive day for her. And Daisy Darcy as well, 25 touches, 85 points. She's going to be a defender target. She's getting it done. It'd be good if the marks took a bit of an uptick, but she's still getting touches and going really well. Dana Finn, very impressive, 77 as a rookie, getting it done. Very, very happy with her. Maddie Guerin, 75 as well for a cheaper midfield rookie, got a good score as well. And then turns some poor scores. I don't think many people ain't Katie Lynch, but only a 40 there, so the scores just haven't been there for her. And Lulu Beattie as well only scored the 23. And then Ella Smith, who I could have traded out this week, only scored the 10 points there, but a lot of people had her on the bench. And even Darcy Vesio, they scored a 19. In the drawn game, North Melbourne and Geelong, Jazz Garner, 130 was massive there. Emma Carney, 101. Ash Riddell, 101. All of them getting the job done. Even Mia King got a 95 as well. And Amy McDonald with a 90. Zali Friswell did well as well with an 87. And also Ruby Tripodi with a 68 from low game time. But her points per minute's great, and we're very happy to see some good scores coming from her there. No real poor scores, I don't think, from this game. Looking at the scores here, actually, Georgie Presparks was the one, but she's obviously she's not fully fit. We can clearly see that this quad injuries is hampering her. She only scored the 39. Could be cheap at some point, but maybe it's just the case of we look at it for next year, depending on how she looks. St Kilda and Sydney. St Kilda getting the job done by 16 points. Obviously, the big news out of this was Chloe Malloy ACL before the game was ruled out. So obviously, condolences for her and hopefully speedy recovery. And we look forward to seeing her back next year. But Laura Gardner, 95, got the job done there. And Sophia Hurley with a 94. But it was a low-scoring game in general. Lucy McAvoy got it done again, 81. So another good score from her there. But besides that, like Ellie Morfitt, lower score with a 57. She'll be cheap to bring in at some point over the next month or so when we look at targeting her. And in terms of some sort of low scores, there's not really anyone here of note that put up a really poor score. Like Serene Watson, 45 is okay enough, I guess. Berylson, a few people jumped on with a 34, but besides that, not too bad. In the final game, Adelaide defeating Freo 39-6, so 33-point win for the Crows. Ebony Marinoff, obviously the top score ever in any game, 191, 31 touches, 7 marks, a goal, and 19 tackles. Was massive there. And Hatchard, again, just dominated up forward and kicked a couple of goals, 29 touches for 117. Maddie Newman, who could be a pod defender with a 101. Chelsea Randall, who I was keen on, and should have jumped on her last week. Would have got some extra points there. She scored 84 there. Ash McCarthy, 78 is okay as well. And then moving down in terms of poorer scores, I don't think there's many poor scores here. If anyone does, only Eloise Jones, only 35, missed a couple of shots. But besides that, most players did their jobs there. So we'll move now to the most traded in-out players for the week. So Jaiden, mate, do you want to go through who the most traded in-out players for round 2 are? Or ahead of round 3, sorry.
Round 3, yeah. The most traded in player so far is Zali Friswell in the forward line. She's decently expensive now, but 2 good scores. 700 coaches are trading her in. Ali Anderson is next, 678, so that's pretty good as well. Dana Finn, 403 coaches are getting her in after another, well, not really another good score, but again, she had team high marks, which is 3 games in a row where she's done that. So the role is absolutely there on the wing. Ebony Marinoff, surprisingly, 399 trade-ins so far.
Over 1.8 million.
She's priced at 140 at the moment, so it's an expensive price to pay.
If you didn't have her, would you I feel like getting someone at 1.8 million that would have to be breaking your team essentially, or the only way I can see it is if you had an Alice Edmonds, go her down to red dot pay Elise O'Dowd, but then you'd have to go like a premium midfielder to Ebony Marinoff, and then you might be able to, could you do that? I don't know if as much as I love Noffy, but is it just a case of double game week start next week? Could you just park it for a few weeks, just hope she doesn't go 180s for the next couple of weeks and just bring in, I guess, like an Ali Anderson or a Jazz Garner or something like that that's got a double game week coming up, very early, whereas Marinoff's is later in round 7, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. I probably wouldn't if you don't have her, then you've already missed out on the 191. So you probably just have to hope that She comes out and has an equally bad score as what she just did good. So because she's like owned by everyone up high, so if you need something different, then you pretty much have to bank on that because you're a long way behind now. And she's just so expensive. Tripodi is the next most traded in, 371, and Rowbottom 340. Kate Hall 308. Alice O'Loughlin, so people are keen to get her in after the suspension, and Eilish O'Dowd is the most traded in ruck. Most traded out so far, Ali Morfitt, still getting coaches trading her out after a pretty high ownership to start the year. Alice Edmonds is the next most traded out, so people are keen to get off her. And then Darcy Vesio, Jess Hosking, Kate Lutkins, and Chloe Malloy are the most traded out players so far.
Yeah. So obviously there's a lot of coaches doing that move from a ruck down to a red dot, or even just a cheaper ruck that might be playing Elise O'Dowd. So what are your thoughts on that move? Are you a fan of that? So for example, I've got Jess Allen and I'm looking at doing that move this week because Elise O'Dowd's got a 60 and she didn't play last quarter last week, and she's got a 76 this week. It's two good scores. A tough matchup this week against Lauren Bella. I like that. I understand that. But I feel like there's not as much of a gap between Elise O'Dowd and these pre and rucks from 2 weeks of data. So are you a fan of making this move?
So it's quite popular, which I can understand. And there's a few different factors to it. So with Edmonds, Georgia Borg is still playing and she's taking up a decent amount of the ruck time. So that's not something we expected in the preseason, but it's playing out now. And Edmonds is very reliant on hit outs and time in the ruck. So I can see why people are going there. I am a little bit worried, because of that Lauren Bella matchup, and also in round one, GWS really played around with their rucks like a lot. So that's why Eilish O'Dowd had such the low time on ground. She had 91% on the weekend, so they put her in there fully. But yeah, I think coaches are needing a way to make money, and that's a very easy way to see how they can get it. Interestingly enough, she hasn't even played enough ruck. For some reason, Champion Data have Eilish O'Dowd as a midfielder forward. Not really sure what's going on there. If you go on the AFL app, you can see that for yourself. So you kind of need a bank on her being that number one ruck, and yeah, it's something I've considered, but I haven't gone through with it at all yet. I think I want to play around with some other stuff first. And yeah, it could be a play to even cash in some rookies if you can, because they're getting close to that point where if they have one bad score, then they're going actually down in price.
Yeah, agreed. And I just realised as well, I said Elise O'Dowd. I got it mixed between Eilish and Elisa Edmonds, and I got it all mixed up. So anyway, apologies for that. But Eilish O'Dowd, yeah. So I'm considering it. I've got Jess Allen, who's been a great pick, great starting pick. I'm very happy with how she's gone 2 weeks in a row. 60 against Mimstrom, tough matchup, and she still was able to get the job done. I just guess that I don't think there's a huge difference between a Jess Allen and an Eilish O'Dowd. It might be different, obviously, when you talk about like an Alice Edmonds or Ali Morfitt even still. I still expect her to get better. It's a bit more of a discussion. And the Dogs do have West Coast this week, good matchup. Then they've got their double. So do you keep Alice Edmonds for that double? That's the interesting thing. And Eilish O'Dowd, as we said, has got Gold Coast this week, tougher matchup. I'm still weighing up, do I do that move or do I not? So that's the one thing that's very, very interesting there. Did you want to touch on anyone else from the most trading out players and have a discussion about any of them?
The people that are trading in are all pretty much cheap players, apart from Frederick. So that's the only other option. But yeah, I suppose with Edmonds, I started her with the intention to get to round 4 and then have a play. And yeah, it's so hard, and I'm not sure yet. But yeah, And it's interesting, Hosking, people are trading her straight out, and that's something I'm considering as well.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts on Jess Hosking? Obviously, the role wasn't great. I think she went more into the midfield in the last quarter, which I don't know why it took them that long to put her on Maddie Prasparkas, but only 4 disposals. The tackles were there, which is great. The caveat to that is obviously role wasn't good, but she's got the Dogs this week, and then she's got a double game week. So it's like you'd think she's going to go better this week against the Dogs, and then the double game week. But the role's not great, and if she's scoring 230, she's only going to get a 60 in double game week. So is it worth keeping her for the double game week? You go and get if you don't have Charlie Thomas, you can go and get her pre and defending. You can go get, if Ola Sheeran's back, maybe jump on her, or maybe wait. Emma Carney, someone like that. Daisy Darcy. What are your thoughts, Jess Hosking? Is she someone that you've been keen to trade out now after watching the role, or with the good matchups coming the double game week, you might keep?
Yeah, so the role was never good. Like, it was more of just the price and the hope that she could maybe pull out another big score. Her break even now is 51, so she could be on the way down. Yeah, because basically a lot of people, including I did, which I kind of fell for after I did the most traded out in numbers last week. I didn't want to be without her. But the role was never good. So if you are trading, you can get one of these defenders that do have a good role. And I wouldn't be, if you're getting in a keeper pick, then they're going to have that double come along as well. If you can trust her, like, I don't know if it's worth $700,000 to have 2 scores from her and expect her to score maybe 140-ish. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if you can get that at the moment, but realistically, you can hold for this week. But yeah, if you hold for this week, then you're probably going to hold for the double. But you still have to weigh up how you're spending your cash in the double weeks, because you could be using that in the midfield and cash her in now, or just flip to a player with an actual role.
Yeah, so it's a case of if you've got a Jess Hosking, are you going up to a defender, and if so, who would that be? Or are you going down? If Lauren Butler's named this week, who was a name we had in our preseason teams, wasn't playing, but there is a chance that she does play this week. The couple of defenders in the 600K range, like a Georgia Stathis, a Geordie Allen, but we saw both of those girls put up stinkers in round 1. So could you trade them in this week with confidence after 60s from this week, which is okay, but are they going to be the pre and defenders you want? So are you going up, or are you cashing her in and going down? And the Dana Finn, I guess, another option for those coaches that didn't start with her.
I'm not sure what kind of downgrade options there are in defence. Daisy Darcy would be the one. I was pretty set on her until I fell for the Hosking trap, and so I could fix that up. But yeah, again, I'm still weighing up, like, and it's something that a lot of coaches will have to consider, like how much money you want to spend on premiums in the defence and forward line, and even in the ruck. How much money you're willing to spend to get a premium player for a double game, when they could do what Courtney Hodder did on the weekend, where we paid up for her and she only scored a 40. So then you're kind of on the back foot in the double before the second game happens, compared to, these midfielders that are pumping out big scores. I wouldn't expect them to score this massive every single week because they're breaking records everywhere, but
yeah, so this would have had to have been the first ever time that 3 scores over 160 was scored in AFL. Yeah. Probably the first time that 2 players have scored over 160, let alone 3.
Yeah, so you do need to weigh up where you're spending your money, because we've got the double games next week. So yeah, we don't have completed teams by now. So it's still a case of weighing up where you're spending your money to maximise the points coming out of the double games, because that's really what you're aiming for in the end of flipping all these premiums, or trying to get in rookies that will have 2 games to increase, things like that.
Yeah. So, that's a pretty much a good segue, because we'll start chatting about these double game weeks. But before we do, I just want to touch on the forwards just quickly. So obviously you said Zali Friswell is the most trading player this week, and you've also got a Chelsea Randall put up a good score on the weekend. A couple of these forwards in the 800Ks, tiny bit cheap, some of them tiny bit cheaper, that are putting up good scores. Is it worth paying up for these forwards when you've got a Ruby Tripodi who's scoring 68 on the weekend and was good, even in low game time as well? She's got such a good role, literally just plays full-time midfield and goes to the bench. So even if she's playing low game time, she's still got the floor of this scoring. And even like Michaela Pounger, who has scored like back-to-back 40s. We probably want a little bit more, but 42, and she's playing mostly sort of high half, so half forward, and then a couple of CBAs. Is it just worth playing like a Pounger and a Tripodi on field and just leaving your 2 or 3 other forwards there? Or is there a case of, okay, this could be where I gain 30 points and hope that a Friswell or a Randall get like consistent 70s and 80s? What are your thoughts?
So we saw it in the men's this year as well. Like the forward line is just all about the role. I mean, it's not rocket science, but the reason why I'm pretty keen on Tripodi is like the role is always there, and gladly enough, she got that kind of spike score this week, which was great.
Love it.
The time on ground isn't there, but the role is there. So that's pretty nice. I don't really need to move her on. So with the other forwards that you're trying to target, you need to really consider the role that they've got, because, yeah, they've had 2 scores now where you've seen what they can do, but don't only get sucked into scores. There could have been some that had 2 favourable matchups, and there could be some out there that have had 2 bad matchups, and they could be a good target. But you've got to focus on the role. With Friswell, the wing/forward role, pretty solid. And I can see why coaches are doing it. I'm a little bit worried because the next Geelong have the best run for midfield and forward over the next 3 weeks. So that's a nice option there. So, yeah, I can see why coaches are going there. I probably wouldn't be going for other ones that, like your key forward or small forward types. Like they're the most likely ones to have a stinker, I think.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on like a Chelsea Randall? She's played bulk midfield both games. Obviously, the one sort of caveat to that is that Tia Charlton hasn't played both games, but she should be back this week. I think she played half a game in the Sandford W or a practice game on the weekend, so she should be back this week. But I'm just sort of wondering, does she play the high half forward role? And then when Chelsea Randall goes into defence, Tia Charlton's the one that pushes up, or Anne Hatchard, or one of these couple, or does Chelsea Randall just play full-time defence? And that, so because those question marks, is it still like, yes, she's gone well, but you'd be waiting for a week or two to see this, or are you happy to jump on her now?
Yeah, we talked about her last week. There's a little bit of like the role is amazing, and it's still there. Adelaide have been throwing the magnets around quite a lot, so they've already got Ponta going through there, which meant they've kind of got a fairly even 4-player split at the moment. I guess you want, I'm still worried about Charlton, but yeah, the role is really good. So I would be more confident picking her than someone else. The only worry that kind of she has over the others is she could just get rested one of these weeks.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be banking on Chelsea Randall to be playing a double game week, especially because the Crows got the later one. And if the Crows let's say they lose one game, maybe they lose none. I don't know, maybe lose a couple. But if they're in a good spot near top of ladder because it's round 7, I'd imagine that's a week where they go, Chelsea can have a rest. I don't expect Marinoff or Hatchard to have rests unless they're carrying knocks, just because the players they are, they'll just probably play lower game time in that game. But I could imagine Chelsea Randall. So you'd be going Friswell over Randall if you had to pick between the two?
Yeah, I like Friswell for the matchups. The role isn't as good, but
there's less questions, I guess, with the role.
Yeah, and they're a similar price. And Friswell kind of, I think she's had a bit better of a score this week. Yeah, and you've got a bit of ownership as well behind Friswell, so I can see why coaches are doing it. Personally, I didn't consider it, but now that I've seen the kind of matchups I've got Carlton, Gold Coast, and Hawthorn next 3. I think yeah, it's a good move on paper.
Yeah. Alrighty, so yeah, we'll move on to these double game weeks now. So this is because this has been the thing that's been in our group chat and what we've been discussing and stuff with the double game weeks. Obviously, starting not this week, coming up next week, with obviously all the teams playing 2 games in the 1 week. So this is where it comes down to like sort of what we're doing with our trades, Jaiden, because when we look at if it's a normal season, it's a standard upgrade your teams, upgrade your rookies, have a full team premiums, and then have to obviously try and get these best midfielders, and then you can sort of luxury trade season where you can swap for fixture runs and stuff like that. Whereas this year, there's a massive wrinkle where these, and you mentioned it before, right? You said these double game week players, like some of the defenders and forwards, could put up 250s and they'll score 100. Whereas it's these midfielders that are going to be, I think, where you're going to cash in a lot. Like you're going to get your Marinoffs, your Garners, your Riddells, your Rowbottoms, your Contis, your like all these players have been playing 2 games in 1 week, and there is a chance that they go 240 points. If they go 2 120s, and you'd think worst case they go 200. You'd like to think these midfielders at least get 200 in the double game week. So I guess my question is: are you upgrading your defender rookies, mid prices, and stuff like that, and your mid price and your full line and rookies, or are you sideways switching your midfielders even starting this week, preparing for round 4? So even jumping on an Ali Anderson, a Britt Benici, an Ellie Blackburn, a Ella Roberts, one of those types this week in preparation for next week, and then with the aim to maybe swap them in round 5 for a Jazz Garner, Ash Riddell, Conti, round 6, swap them to a Gardner or a Rowbottom, and then round 7 and swap to like an Anne Hatchard or a few of these other players. So what are your thoughts with the whole double game week? So what are you planning to do with your trades?
I think overall, people are pretty understanding of it now, but you probably don't need to worry so much because every single player in your team still has a double game coming up. Obviously, everyone's hyper focused on this first one, which I can understand why. But like this time last week, we were talking about Hosking as a 3-week play to get to the double. But yeah, by now, it's only 3 weeks away until Conti's got hers. So I think, yeah. Yeah, so like don't blow up your whole team for 1 week. The first thing I would start with is who are you going to captain? So you need to get a captaincy option in 100%. You need one. And that's going to be in the midfield. So at a minimum, you need to pick a midfielder that is on the double each week. So upcoming, I don't have any of them. I don't have Benici, Anderson, Blackburn, or who else? No one else really.
Ella Roberts.
Yeah, so the 3 captaincy options for me would be Benici, Anderson, or Blackburn. I'm probably leaning towards Anderson or Benici purely because of they get to play against the Dogs and the Eagles. So the first thing I'll do now is plan out who you're going to captain in each week, and that will be in the midfield. So you need to set that up first. And then, yeah, like we've still got 3 trades next week. So I'm not like massively keen to dive in now on certain picks. I've kind of done that with Hodder and I've had more time. So I'm still pretty keen to try and get as much cash as possible because I want to be maximizing the midfield and making sure that I can afford certain players in there. And you've only got 5 spots, so you can't be like, okay, I've got Marinoff, so she's there, that's fine. And then I need Anderson as well because she will be my captain this week.
I have Garner around 5.
Yeah, so then I want Garner and Riddell. So you've only got 5 spots, so you do need to do a bit of planning. Just make sure you've got a captain and plan how you can get one. And then you can figure out the rest from there. But I wouldn't be too worried about the forward line or defence in particular. Like you're probably going to have a bunch of trades that can be used in those areas as long as you've just got that midfield, because that's where all your points will be coming from mainly, and focus on cash generation a bit more in the other areas. I don't want to have a rookie on field in the midfield when I've, spent up for Garner. I don't really want to have to like side swap all these players and still have a rookie there.
Yeah, I'm the same as well. Like, I think that's probably one of my top priorities, I guess, is trading these like the rookies in the midfield to get 5 premium midfielders in. So that's probably maybe I don't know if I can do it. I can do it this week. Like that's something I've played around with trades, but it's something definitely I want to be doing by next week, which is why I'm worried about. So, for example, I did like an iteration of my trades where I go like a Jess Allen down to a red dot ruck. Then I can go like a Hosking up to a Daisy Darcy, and I can go a Wenland up to a Friswell or a Chelsea Randall, right? So I can get an upgrade in the forward line and in defence, which would mean that I would see if I'm counting Goldrick as a premium defender, just based on what she's done. I'd have 4 premium defenders and 4 premium forwards, but you'd still have only 4 premium midfielders, and I wouldn't have the cash to go one at this midfielder, right? Whereas I'm thinking, well, do I just save the cash in the forward line, for example, not get a Friswell, and then pay up for a midfielder like a Britt Benici, get her in this week, and then I've got the midfielder sorted, and then I can trade a Benici in round 5 or whatever. Because if you look at I think the break-evens as well, I think I saw some put in, Jane, you can probably tell us this as well, but Ali Anderson and Britt Benici have both got low break-evens this week. I think that Anderson would have somewhere in the 70s and 80s, and I think Britt Benici might be the same. So is that a case where you could jump on them this week because you might be nervous that they go big this week and then you might not be able to afford them this week? Is that maybe part of your thinking as well?
Yeah, so Benici's 74. She's a pretty high priority for me at the moment. Not sure if I want to pay out for Anderson yet, because I'm fairly confident in Benici's ability to be my captain. And that's not a confidence that I had with any of these players at the start of the year. So I didn't start with any of them. I probably would have gone with Ella Roberts, but right now she's quite cheap and she can be an option if you're shopping around to get a rookie off field. I think if you are trading out your ruck to a basement, you need to try and get you need to really sort out your midfield. First of all, because the Port girls have played their Dogs game now, and you could realistically jump off one of those, because if you're spending or if you're gaining a lot of cash from downgrading your ruck, you're gonna have to make sure you use that in a really wise way, because you're not going to be able to do that ever again. So
if you're downgrading your ruck, your probably first priority is you're upgrading a Wendland. Would you upgrade a Goody? Like is Goody someone you'd prefer to keep on as your M6 and maybe make a bit more cash? What would be a break even like a Piper Window? You're probably not trading after a big score, but Sachi Syme could be an option. What's the break even of those Port girls?
So Goodies is 29, which is not bad. If she scores a 50, she's going up 60 grand. Windows is lower at 19, so that's a hold for now. Wendland 24 as well. So I just think if you're pulling the trigger on the ruck move, that's going to be a lot of your cash, and you're not going to be able to do that again. So you really need to use the other 2 trades to get in those players that you desperately need. Personally, I don't have any of those to captain. I'm considering it this week just to get one in. I'm also considering whether I want 2 on each. I don't know if I can get there, but with 3 trades every week and the midfield being where you want to focus the most, it's a consideration.
Yeah. What's Breed's break even? Because she's been good, obviously, but people might be saying because she's the most expensive, they might upgrade her.
So hers is 28.
Would she be someone that you'd want to keep, or do you think with the scores, she had one big quarter in week 1 and then a 50-odd on the weekend? What are your thoughts with the Breed? If she's the upgrade, because she's the most expensive, if you can get her up to a Britt Benici, for example, would you pull the trigger on that?
Yeah, probably.
There's that balance, right? Because she's probably got a little bit more cash to make, but doing that switch, it means it solves that problem of getting that sort of last midfield rookie off, and you've got the 5 premium mids if that's what you got. I think a few people we saw in the preseason had the 2 midfield rookie set up as well. They had a breed in a window or a breed in a goodie or goodie in window, whatever, on field. I know we both didn't do that because we, I guess, thought the points were probably more in the midfield and we were happy enough with the rookies. But those people that went the 2 midfield rookies, do you think that obviously it's essential that if you've got the Eilish down the bench, you almost have to make that move in preparation for these double game weeks?
Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be in your ruck because you've spent up elsewhere. But
forward, down,
yeah, you definitely need to go now in the midfield. Ella Roberts is quite cheap if you're keen to go to her against the Dogs this week. Or yeah, Benici's the next cheapest that I like. And yeah, you can't go without a captain option. Like, you cannot captain Marinoff. And she scored 191 on the weekend. That's going to be the highest score of the year. I would comfortably say. I'm not going to predict that anyone beats that because, you just need to play the percentages. And yeah, pretty much just go, I need a captain option. If you've got the 2 rookies, get up to one of them because you will have cash elsewhere that you can use, whether that's in the ruck or maybe in the forward line or wherever you use that elsewhere. I guess interestingly, there's not a lot of like downgrade options that are going around. I feel like there was more last year. I could have just been making that up, but we did start with rookie rucks last year, so I guess that's probably where the cash is coming from, and coaches are pulling the trigger now.
Yeah, it is interesting. These double game weeks are certainly put a wrinkle in these in our season. So it's going to be very, very interesting. So sort of final thing, sort of to wrap it up into a bow. What are your plans sort of for trades this week and then next week? Sort of obviously anything can happen. Injuries, suspensions, anything can happen and trades get things. But what are you planning on this week and then leading into next week? So what would your ideal moves be?
So I haven't actually massively figured them out yet, and I feel a lot of coaches will be in that scenario. So for those listening, don't be too stressed this week about trades. I mean, do be, because this will be the hardest week of trading that you'll have, but don't try and overthink it or overplan it, because you've still got 6 trades until the doubles begin. So that's an entire line that you could trade out. So I'm it is a really hard trading week, and I'm pretty keen to make up some ranks this week if I can. But yeah, so much changes in 1 week. Like, everyone's on Hosking last week, most traded in, and now she's 3rd most traded out. So don't overthink and try and put everything into the double games, because not so much the double games, because you do need to plan appropriately for them, but don't focus so much this week on, okay, I need to get 3 players that have the double in round 4 this week, because you've still got 3 trades next week. And overall, don't just break your entire team for 1 week of the doubles. Still try and focus on your cash generation. Who's losing money? What targets are you trying to get in as a potential keeper pick, or someone that you like the look of at that price? So overall, I'm not entirely sure on my trades yet. I have Conti and Maddie Prasparkas, so one of those will probably go to Benici at this stage. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure elsewhere. I think I'd be keen to try and do something with some rookies. I've got Beattie and Smith still. So, but yeah, overall, I would suggest figure out your captain option and try and get that in place. But don't worry too much about the double games, because you've really only got 3 trades this week, 3 trades next week. That's still 6 trades you can do. And don't stress too much about the double games, because every single player that you've considered still has a double game to come.
Yeah. Well, yes, you touched on one player I was actually going to get you quick thoughts on, was Mon Conti. So in a normal season, we wouldn't be trading Mon Conti. We'd be keeping her. She's probably going to be a top 5 to 6 midfielder, or we project her to be anyway. That's what we said at the start of the season. And she's got some good matches to come. But the fact she dropped the 76, I don't know what a break-in is. You can probably tell us in a sec, Jane. But she's got Sydney this week. Tanya Kennedy has done tagging jobs. We saw even just a Claire Ransom, who's a fourth gamer that wasn't doing anything, but she went to Monconti. I would put money on the fact that Tanya Kennedy's going to go to Monconti this week. That's the obvious tag that you'd think Sydney would do, and Sydney have tended to do that in matchups when she's got Carlton the week after. So it's a good matchup after that. But if she drops a 70 or a 60 this week, she could drop massive amount of coin when it could be vital that of getting these high-priced midfielders. So firstly, what's her break-even? But then secondly, could you tick a trade-off of even going a Conti to an Anderson this week, going a Conti to a Benici, even if it went Conti to even a Jazz Garner, preparing for maybe getting her this week or next week, and then getting Riddell in round 5. What are your thoughts on trading Conti out, but then maybe bringing her back in say, round 5?
So break-even's 115. That's the highest behind 3 North players, Garner, Riddell, and Bruton, who only scored a 23 on the weekend. So I wouldn't be trading Conti to Garner. But yeah, the tag is a concern. And she also plays Port in her double game, and that's up first. So you could, if you're trying to captain her or vice captain her around then, you might not be taking that as a score if she does get tagged. So
Mary Maloney's been doing jobs.
So it's a consideration to trade. She's priced at about 102 or so. So
how much would she go down if she scored, let's say, 70 or an 80?
So if she puts up a 75, she's losing 116,000. If Anderson did the same thing, then she's fairly close to a break even. So if you don't have that captain option in place, you could do it, but you also need to be aware that you still need a captain option in round 5. So I'm considering trading her purely from a price perspective to get a bit of cash. I'm not sure if I want to do the ruck move yet with Edmonds playing West Coast and then into a double, but the tag is a worry. I think she's probably one of the more taggable players in the comp. So I can see myself doing it. I haven't figured out, all the combinations yet. If you're playing the break evens game, then you can go for it.
Yeah. It's certainly something I play around with. I could again bring in I've got Ellie Blackburn, but obviously I brought her in for double game week, but more. If I got an Anderson or a Benici, they would be the captain because of the 2 good matchups. But I guess just looking at the double game weeks here, like even for me, like you've got, you could go VC, Benici or whatever into a Blackburn, for example, or I could do something like that. But I just think with Anderson against the Dogs and West Coast, that's 2 good matchups. I think I want her, and I'm afraid that if she put up another 110, 120 this week, she could just go past the price range and I won't have her. And then if she goes one double game week, then I'm screwed. So I've thought about that. I've thought about the Benici move there as well. And like Conti, obviously we're talking about Nadal, she's got Port and then North. So I guess they're not great matchups, but again, she'd still be okay. Then she's got a Collingwood there. I'm just looking. Then she's got Geelong, and who she have post that? So she's got Melbourne, Essendon, and then to finish, she's got Hawthorn. So it's not a bad finish to the year. So you'd probably want to bring it back in. But yeah, I'm just worried that because there's only 5 midfield slots, you want to I feel like you want to maximize having the best mids in their double game week. So I think you want obviously Marinoff in round 7. I think you want Gardner and Rowbottom in round 6. You probably want, ideally, you'd want Conti, Garner, and Riddell in round 5. Whether you can fit all 3 in is probably the other question. You might not be able to, but maybe at least 2 of them. And then round 4, maybe having 1 or 2 of them. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, it's definitely something I've considered. So I've probably had 3 iterations of my trades. I've gone Jess Allen down to a basement. Then I've gone the trades that currently sit in my side were just going a Jess Hosking up to Daisy Darcy and then a Wendland up to Friswell, just doing those 2 trades and upgrade team, but I've still got the rookie in my midfield. So it locks me out of that. So thinking more about, I might not do that, but then I've thought about, do I go keep Jess Allen there for the week and just go like even a Hosking to a defender around her price or a little bit down, then go Conti to an Anderson and then do it like another midfield. I'm not sure. Like, there's a few iterations of the team, so I'm still a bit unsure with trades, but I guess we'll see how the trades work out as we get closer to the round, which starts on Thursday night as well. For anyone that did forget, we now have Thursday night footy for every week of the AFLW season remaining. Obviously, we've got Tuesday and Wednesday nights coming up starting next week. So not many days without AFLW, which is going to be really good. Really good to be able to sort of work, come home, and then sit down and watch some AFLW at night, which would be good. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens. Anything else you want to quickly touch on, Jan, before we sort of wrap up the podcast?
Not massively. I think, with the Thursday game, if you're doing the Edmonds or Hosking move, they will lock out 7:15. So be switched on between 6:20 and 7:15 to see the teams coming out. You won't get the Sunday teams, so that's 4 games you'll miss out on. But if you're locking one of those in, you'll need to do that on Thursday.
Yeah, agreed. That's a good call. Yep, and probably nothing from me. I think we've pretty much discussed everything there. So we've discussed what our trade plans potentially look like. So I reckon we'll sort of wrap everything up. So Jaiden, mate, thanks for jumping on for an episode once again. Where can the people find you across the socials and the website for the only place you can find the break evens and most trading out players, I believe, on your website? So where can people find that?
Yeah, I'll chuck the most traded out players up. I don't know if I can update it every so often, or maybe I'll just tweet it later in the week once we get some more numbers in. But website, statsbyjaiden.com.au, break evens, fixture, top 100 ownership, things like that. Things you don't get in the AFLW game, so they're up there.
You're the fantasy coach subscription, but it's accessible. It's free.
Those things helped me out a lot over the last few years, mainly last year, because that was when this format came in. So, if you need that kind of stat stuff to figure out your trades, you can go over there and have a look.
Yeah. No, make sure you get around it. As I said, it's like the Fantasy Coach subscription, except it's free, and you go support Jaiden as well. So, make sure you guys do that as well. You can find me at Bails DT across the socials. You can find Mitch at Ball Boys Fantasy, and you can find us at AFL Fans on Twitter or X as well. So, if you'd like to do that, then make sure you do that. If you'd like to ask me any questions on Q regarding your AFLW Fantasy questions, you can screenshot your old team, send that through. Any questions you like, head over to Ask Me on Q, spelled QU.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. If you'd like to ask more AFLW Fantasy questions there. If you are watching on YouTube as well, make sure you do smash a big thumbs up on the video. 100 likes if we could get that goal. That'd be fantastic. So make sure you smash a like and also subscribe to our YouTube channel on the road to 2.8k subscribers. I think we're about 90 odd away. So make sure you subscribe there. And if you're listening back on the podcast and could be so kind, if you could leave us a 5-star rating and review, that'd be very much appreciated. It only takes a couple of seconds of your time and it massively helps us out. So if you do that and leave your support there, that would be fantastic. We're back on Friday afternoon. Obviously, we'll have a game already played at that point, but we'll still be previewing the rest of the round. So the game is, I believe that is, 5 p.m. Eastern. So we'll probably be live from 3:30 Eastern to 4:30 Eastern around there. So make sure you tune in at 3:30 Eastern, and I believe that is 1:30 per time. So it's obviously quite early, but if you aren't working or you want to tune in while you're working, then make sure you do that as we answer plenty of your questions and get prepared for the upcoming round of AFLW Fantasy. So thanks, Jaiden. Good luck. Have a good few days, guys, and we'll catch you guys on the Friday review show. So thanks, guys. We're out. See ya.